Manager banned my life-saving bell, leaving me with ADHD struggles and safety concerns in a Shady hotel's night shift. I'm a night auditor at a hotel. My job is largely sitting in the back and watching the cameras, printing out papers to store for accounting purposes, and helping guests that arrive in the absolute dead of night. I work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and generally am completely alone in the building except for security, who is one guy that only mostly shows up for his scheduled shifts. This job has been an absolute slam dunk for me. I struggle in most workplaces due to my blend of disabilities that make waking up on time extremely difficult. Showing up to work at all can be a challenge at times, and even when I'm in the workplace I often struggle to keep up with workloads. Because I'm coming in the dead of night, I don't have to worry about oversleeping, and since my job is just printing some papers and general customer service, I don't have to worry about not being able to handle it. My previous manager encouraged me to bring my switch into work because it can get extremely boring, and she made it clear that as long as I'm not bothering any guests and am here on time and getting my work done, what I do doesn't really matter. She also mentioned that there's a bell in the dining area that the cooks use, and I can take it to leave up front so guests can easily alert me when they need something and I'm in the back. She left the company about a month ago, and our new front desk manager is an external hire. She sent her first message to the team as a whole about a week ago, and about 70% of the message was her lambasting anyone who uses the bell. She saw my signage that says please ring the bell for service, and wrote that anyone using the bell would be written up for doing so. I have pretty bad ADHD, that being a pretty major part of my typical struggles at work. I'm not always looking at the cameras and can't tell 100% of the time when a guest has arrived at the front desk. While I'd like to get medication to help me treat this, the waiting list is a year and a half long just for evaluation, and since I only just got approved for company health insurance, it's still a long ways out for me. Maybe it's silly, but that bell is a huge saving grace for my work performance. It's quiet, distinctive, and immediately lets me know I need to get up and help someone. I've not mentioned that it assists me with my disability to my manager, but I wrote telling her that it's useful for me. Additionally, if I don't have a bell out there for people to ring, there's really only 3 ways things will go down when a customer arrives. The customer waits until I check the front desk cameras again, which could be a while because, again, memory issues. The customer walks into an employee-only area to look for me, inevitably scaring the shit out of me and looking extremely unprofessional in the process. The customer yells hello? To try and get someone's attention. None of those scenarios are necessarily ideal. To me, it seems like a much easier solution to simply give customers a way of politely notifying me that they're waiting would be to give them a bell to ring. However, my manager has made it very clear that this simply won't be happening, and I really don't want to get written up. While I could just sit at the front desk, that would make me unable to watch the cameras at all, and additionally I wouldn't feel safe doing so. The front desk is positioned directly in front of a massive window and we're located in a shady part of town. I am certain that I would get people coming in to sexually harass me. It's happened before. I just want to keep the stupid bell. I don't understand why it's such a big deal if it helps me do my work easier, but I don't know how to describe to my manager that a $5 bell I bought off Amazon is an effective disability aid for me without sounding stupid. Update 1. I think I might have dug myself into a hole here and I really need this job. The fact that I get paid to do fuck all most of the time is a goddamn blessing. The previous manager was awesome, and trained me how to do everything super fast. She actively encouraged me to bring my laptop or switch in to play video games during my shift, because otherwise I'd get so bored I'd start bashing my head into a wall. She also told me I could use the bell from the kitchen to put at the front desk for guests to easily get my attention. This had been an absolute godsend regarding my ADHD, and I made a sign to request guests to ring it for me during the dead of the night. After only 2 shifts she said she was confident I could manage my own work, and I've been working alone ever since, with security around a good half the time. Back in September, she left for a different job. Everyone was pretty heartbroken, but of course we all wished the best for her and she departed with no issues. There was about 2 months where the front desk was reporting directly to the general manager, who was slowly but surely getting less and less responsive to messages and calls. At one point, I had a guest approach me, complaining that their car had been stolen from our parking garage, and despite being told they would get the chance to speak with the GM about the incident, she had never showed up. I sent an email to the GM immediately, furious that she had not responded to our guests and upset that my repeated calls to her over the last 2 weeks hadn't been acknowledged. I told her that she had to come in that day to discuss things with our guests as they would be checking out the next morning, and I expected to be updated on the situation as it had happened during my shift, and I would like to know how I'm expected to respond to this. I got no response and she did not arrive at the hotel that day, so I sent an email to HR saying that I was unable to get in touch with her and needed assistance ASAP. That was fortunately able to kick the GM's ass into gear and the situation was dealt with, though I never got my update. Finally, about a month and a half ago, we got a new front desk manager, who I'll call M. Her introduction to us all felt off-putting. She opened with a standard introduction, and then immediately dove into a rant about the bell. She had seen my sign saying to please ring it, and went off the handle saying it was ludicrous and absurdly unprofessional. She said she threw out the sign, and should she see a sign like that again the poster of it would have disciplinary action taken against them. In addition, she's taken away the keyboards for the computers in the back office, making them functionally unusable for everyone else. This is, of course, a dogshit way to introduce yourself to your new employees, and a complete power trip to me. A bell is a normal thing to see at a hotel, and putting that aside, it has been an absolute game changer for my disability. I have really bad time blindness and will forget to check the cameras for extended periods of time, and the bell is a good way of immediately getting my attention from whatever I'm doing and getting me to the front desk immediately. I decide that M will surely understand if I tell her it's a disability aid, so I leave a response to her clarifying as much. I obviously don't tell her the details of my disability, just saying that I can be very forgetful and the bell makes it easier for guests to get my attention when I'm in the back office. In addition, I would very much like to use the computers in the back office. M says that it doesn't matter, and I'm not allowed to use the bell. I remind her that as a disabled employee I am entitled to reasonable accommodation, and she's having none of it. She demands I get a doctor's note for the stupid fucking bell, or take it up with GM. She also neatly dodges any of my requests asking where the keyboards are or if we can still use the back office computers. She also says, if I'm experiencing trouble focusing, I should remove my distractions. This advice is very upsetting to hear, not only because I do not want unwarranted advice on how to manage my medical condition, but also because I know that that is not how my fucking illness works. This is maybe where I should have stepped back. I sent an email to GM, explaining that I like to use the bell and it's a preferable alternative to guests entering employee-only areas to get my attention, and I would like to have it cleared as a disability aid. I also mentioned that I do not want to hear M commenting on how I should treat my disability, as she is not qualified to do so. GM seemed to take a very stern tone with her response, demanding to know why I wasn't at the front desk, why I wasn't checking the cameras. The bell has never been allowed and I'm breaking the rules by using it. Worst of all, she demands to know why I did not mention my disability in the course of my interview. This question is fucking shocking. No employee is ever required to disclose their disability to an employer before the job has been offered unless it makes them unable to perform the job duties, and as the manager she should know this. I repeat that I am not required to disclose at any time until I make a request for accommodation, and that my disability means that I sometimes forget to check the cameras and this is not something I am in control of. Additionally, I stress that I have never been told I am required to remain at the front desk for the entirety of my shift. This has never been the case for me nor anyone else I have worked night audit with. I also CC HR to make sure they're hearing all of this as well. HR responds saying if I want accommodations, I'll need a doctor's note, though they do not mention GM's out-of-pocket demands to know why I hadn't disclosed my disability. GM denies that she ever requested I disclose my disability, despite the fact that I have the fucking email sitting in our reply chain just a few days prior. She says that I'm to respect M's authority as she has many years of experience in the industry. This is not something I have ever denied, and that I'm to remain at the front desk for the entirety of my shift. Additionally, she says that M has claimed I've been hooking my laptop up to the work monitors to play video games. This accusation has come out of nowhere. While I have brought my laptop to work to play games, this is something I was extremely explicitly told was allowed by the previous management, and I have never connected my personal laptop to the work computers. I tell her as much, and make sure to stress that I am upset with M because she gave me unsolicited advice on how to manage a medical condition she is not qualified to comment on. Her experience as a hotel manager is irrelevant in that specific matter. I also make sure to stress that it is incredibly fucking weird, considering how bad M has stressed that she's the /manager that she never approached me about this supposed workplace habit. I would expect her to discuss any issues with my performance with me directly, as that would be the normal thing to do. I've not gotten a response to this email, and it's been 3 weeks since I sent it. I'm honestly not sure what to do now. Did I just completely let my anger about this whole situation fuck me over? Do I get papers from my doctor saying that I'm disabled? If I do that, should I bother with the stupid bell that caused all of this bullshit? I still want my fucking bell back, but it's not worth losing my job. Update 2. Long story short, I like using the bell as it's an effective disability aid and I was originally encouraged to use it. New management came in and said if I was caught using again disciplinary action would be taken. Told her it was a disability aid, she didn't care, took the issue to my GM who began to grill me on why I hadn't disclosed my disability during my interview. Of course, she's not allowed to ask that. Legally, I'm not obligated to disclose, and she's not allowed to ask me to do so during the course of an interview. I CC'd HR in my response explaining as much, however nothing came and eventually the situation died down, though I still didn't get my bell back. However, apparently my email got a small investigation cropped up around the GM's behavior. Corporate began sniffing around and found that next to nothing in our hotel was compliant with corporate policy, and bonus money that should have been sent to front desk staff as a result of positive reviews mentioning them by name never actually made it to the staff. According to a coworker of mine, the GM had to be escorted out of the building. I spoke with the new acting GM about everything, and he said he was excited to meet me because of the multiple glowing reviews he'd read that mentioned me by name. He's interested in equipping me with the skills to begin rising up the management ranks, and asked me to expand on things that would make my job easier. Among some many changes he's planning on implementing came my personal favorite bit of news. I got my bell back. I couldn't leave because I'm getting my healthcare through work and currently going through a lot of medical stuff, but I had been asking other hotels managed by the same company what they offered and if I'd be able to keep my current doctor if I were to get hired with them. Came into work today expecting to get lectured for having to call out sick last week, and instead had a lovely chat with a new manager who wouldn't shut up about how personable I am for a nah. Update 3. First off, my new acting GM? Absolute legend. He's still going through corporate's onboarding and auditing everything the old regime did wrong, but he's made it crystal clear that he actually values the staff. I mean, who would have thought, right? A manager who acknowledges the people keeping the hotel from collapsing into a pit of fire and chaos. I didn't think they existed. So a couple of days ago, he calls me into his office. Immediately, I panic, because my brain has been trained to assume that being summoned by a boss means I'm about to be fired, arrested, or both. Instead, he sits me down and asks, "How would you feel about being promoted?" Excuse me, what? I must have looked like an idiot, just blinking at him in pure confusion, because he laughs and continues, "I've been going through records, reviews, and talking to employees. You're reliable, you handle issues without making a scene, and based on what I've seen, you actually care about this place. I want you on the path to management." I was still stuck on the fact that someone in power was actually recognizing my work and not just assuming I was a lazy goblin hiding in the back for 8 hours. I managed to mumble something like, yeah, I'd love to, but I kinda have. You know, ADHD and stuff. He nods like he was expecting that. Right, so what do you need? Accommodations, structure, schedule adjustments, what will make this work for you? I almost fell out of my chair. It was the first time in my entire employment history that a boss asked me what I needed instead of acting like I was an inconvenience to their grand master plan. I stammered out something about needing clear instructions, a consistent schedule, and, obviously, my bell. He just grinned and said, "Done." So now, I'm officially on the management track, which is insane, considering just a couple of months ago I was on the verge of quitting because my last manager was having an unhinged power trip over a literal $5 bell. But wait, it gets better. Since the previous GM was apparently pocketing bonuses meant for staff, yeah, that was a fun corporate discovery, the company is retroactively paying out those bonuses to everyone who got screwed over. Including me. I check my bank account this morning and see a deposit for an extra $3,000. 3 freaking grand. Just casually chilling in my account like a forgotten birthday check from a rich uncle I never met. It's honestly surreal. A few weeks ago, I was ready to fight tooth and nail just to keep a tiny piece of metal that makes a ding sound, and now I'm getting promoted and handed surprise money. It feels like I somehow glitched into an alternate reality where work isn't actively trying to destroy my soul. And the best part? The new bell they got me? It's bigger. Louder. Shinier. They upgraded my disability aid. I swear I nearly cried when they handed it to me. Update 4. So, remember how I got promoted onto the management track? Yeah, well, apparently, my actual job title hasn't been officially changed yet, which means I'm floating in this weird limbo where I have more responsibility but technically still get paid like a night auditor. Which, okay, fine, I figured HR just needed time to process everything. But then, things got weird. One night, I come in and notice the security guy, let's call him Jay, looking absolutely frazzled. He pulls me aside and says, "Hey, there's been some weird stuff happening on the cameras." I immediately assume this is either A, another car theft, or B, someone trying to break into the back office again. But no. Oh, no. This was a whole different brand of nonsense. Apparently, the night before, someone in a hoodie was caught on camera wandering around the employee-only areas, but when security checked in person, no one was there. Like, straight up, they checked immediately after seeing them on the monitors, and there was nobody in sight. And this happened multiple times. 1 second, they're in the break room. Blink, and they're gone. What the hell? Jay swears up and down that it wasn't a camera glitch, and I'm already mentally preparing myself to deal
with either A, a ghost, B, a tech-savvy serial killer, or C, a very bored raccoon with a strong Wi-Fi signal.
So, I pull up the footage. And sure enough, there they are, a figure in a dark hoodie, strolling through the back like they belong there. Only, something feels off. The way they move is weirdly smooth, almost unnatural, like they're on a conveyor belt instead of walking. And the second they round a corner, poof. Gone. At this point, I'm just staring at the screen, completely unnerved. Jay leans in and mutters, "Tell me that's not the creepiest shit you've ever seen." I won't lie. I half joked, well, at least they didn't ring my bell. But in my head, I'm running through every possible explanation. Someone sneaking around? A prank? A glitch in the Matrix? Fast forward to the next night. I set up a little test, adjusted some of the security cameras to cover more blind spots, just in case. And sure enough, around 3 a.m., I catch movement. The hoodie figure is back, except this time, instead of vanishing into thin air, they turn and stare directly into the camera. I freeze. My brain short-circuits. The figure doesn't move, just stands there, head slightly tilted, like they know I'm watching. And then, as if that wasn't horrifying enough, they slowly lift a hand. And wave. I shut off the monitor. Immediately. I don't know what I expected, but that? That was too much. I nearly called the cops, but what was I supposed to say? Hi, yes, we have a mysterious teleporting hoodie person who likes to haunt our security cameras? By the time I worked up the courage to turn the screen back on, they were gone. So now, I'm stuck in this paranormal thriller subplot that I definitely did not sign up for. Jay is convinced the hotel is haunted. I'm convinced this is either a hacker messing with our feeds or someone with an uncanny ability to dodge security in the most unsettling way possible. Now on to second story. Husband abandoned me for his family on Christmas, so I returned their gifts, served him divorce papers, and left him broke. I, 31F, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, M33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. STBX insisted that they're just putting up a tough exterior and they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and brought a cake I'd made, because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started and she claimed she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My SIL confirmed that was what happened. My STBX owned his own business and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own trying to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift but clearly for my STBX only. Every holiday was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet, so I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later my STBX said his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied, fine, we'll do our own thing instead. My STBX sheepishly looked away and said he was still going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for Phil, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for Mill, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for Sil. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for Bill and his wife's chihuahua, too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband come home from Christmas lunch telling me I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why would he think I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around? Served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now so we had that prenup? STBX is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts, or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family are on my side and proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. Update 1. First, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 I saved on the gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My STBX didn't bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers and my lawyer made it clear we're exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts, I never picked up, from him and his family for a few days trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested I don't block them so we have evidence of harassment, if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then last night I got call after call from my STBX. Stupidly, I picked it up thinking there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, the rent is a week late. I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, no, the rent for here. I reminded him I don't live there and he shouldn't expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record, since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so we could move right in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who STBX and I are, let alone that we live there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad I had a few weeks to prep my leaving since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through it is welcome.